Hello. In this chapter, we'll try to cover the theme of alienation, theme of rootlessness, displacement, communal riots, and other factors which have shaped the characters of the novel The Shadow Lines by Amitav Ghosh. And first of all, let's start with the character of Tama, since she is an important character because she plays a fuel to the younger generation and also acts as a critic to those who she thinks have deviated from Indian mores. As we all know, Tama is the grandmother of the narrator of this novel, and she's deeply immersed in the Indian traditional values, the accepted values of old Indian, and she looks down upon those who do not feel in line with her. So she was born and brought up in a joint family in Dhaka, a very big joint family with everyone living and eating together. Her grandfather was an advocate, thin and stern-looking man with frown permanently etched into his forehead. Even her father and her father's brother, Jetamushai, talk in whisper in the presence of her grandfather. So after the death of their father, Jethamosai, tried to put himself in his father's shoes, but he didn't succeed in that. He failed to maintain unity between the family. Therefore, the house was divided between the two brothers, and they kind of lost communication with one another. And Tama was married to an engineer with railways in Burma. Therefore, she passed the first 12 years of her married life in railway colonies. And in the year 1935, her husband caught a chill while supervising the construction of a culvert and died of pneumonia. So she became a widow when she was a young woman of only 32, and a sympathetic railway official got her appointed as a school teacher in Calcutta. So she worked there and rose to be the principal of that school and retired from that post as a very successful principal. So in the year 1947 came partition, and Dhaka, the birthplace of Tama, became the capital of East Pakistan. So the partition had suddenly changed the meaning of home, which Tama had associated with Dhaka. She was no longer coming home to Dhaka as a native, but as a foreigner. So Tama has tremendous pride for the heritage of her lost family in Dhaka, and her sister living abroad and her husband Sahib. So she has an amazing attachment to the family jewelry, and at the same time she can sacrifice the same for funds raised during riots. So she suffers under the unbearable burden of memory. She always carries within herself the treasure house of her childhood abode, innumerable interactions, encounters, private material and immaterial belongings. Yet she says her sorrows with none. Sometimes after retirement, she came to know that her uncle Jethamasa is still living in their old house in Dhaka, which is now occupied by Muslim refugees from India, and that the old man is being taken care of by one such family. So she is determined to bring back her uncle Jethamusai to Calcutta. So she makes a plan to go to Dhaka. So when they reach Dhaka, she keeps asking where Dhaka is, where the line that is drawn, the border that is drawn between India and Pakistan that divides the places into two. So her question is actually the author's observation on the futility of political boundaries and purposelessness of socio-political movements, resulting in the deaths of innocent people. The question that she reiterates throughout her visit is, where is Dhaka? So she became a foreigner, as teased by Chudip. Chudip says to her, but you are a foreigner now, you are as foreign here as May, much more than May look at her. However, only when they see their old house that reality stares them in the face. It is no longer the same house. For when the sisters reach there, they discover to their dismay that their house is crumbling, that in what was once a garden to their house, there is now an automobile workshop, and a large number of families living there. Heta hian kan hriat thiam tur chu thama hi displacement and mania hian sense of unbelonging khatiang kan turna se emani partition awangin dakha ama India ram anga te mun khata thin kha partition nu khan Pakistan le India chen nu khan they came to India and settled down in Calcutta. But after some years, partition nuin jethamasa an uncle kha damti an shiata shroile turwa an chau khan kha anom na muna nge kha khulaiye border to India le Pakistan China border to tin azot chintani chu socio political factor na mishinga thlak je tele khatiang line mutur border mumal chu tiang in an ziak le nem tian lo chan nu po khan kha tak khani a critic tu chu hemi manga Amitav Ghosh pon soi du chu I few he engma ani lo zia te khatiang kha border line ka a shadow mani mang lo khan mishing nun a chia darna sa zia te khatiang ka soi ka du ta ni chuan let's continue. So for Jethamosai, Calcutta is now as much a foreign city as Dhaka is for Tama. Le Apu Jethamosai tan since he has become a foreign to Calcutta, so much as Tama has become a foreigner in her birthplace Dhaka. Atanjon Dhaka birthplace ka foreign anarangina valeto tani. That is why Jethamosai also refused to leave the place even after he has been told about the communal violence in Dhaka, which has made his stay with strangers unsafe. So the real sorrow of the partition was that it brought Tuan Rapan along and communally share history and culture heritage. The relations between the Hindus and the Muslims were not always free from suspicion, distrust, or the angry rejection by one group of the habits or practice of the other. But such moments of active malevolence and communal frenzy were a rare exception to the common bonds of mutual goodwill and warm feelings of close brotherhood. So, in this novel, the narrator accepts the inevitability of partition of India. He believes in political separation and the absoluteness of socio-cultural differences across nations, for example, India and Pakistan. So the partitioning of this family in Dhaka can serve as an allegory of the Great Indian Partition. The once familiar house becomes a matter of curiosity for both halves of the house. A major feature of post-colonial literature is the concern with place and displacement. One thing we always have to keep in our mind is that this novel, though the setting is from 1939, it expands up to 1964. So, in a sense, it is also a post-colonial writing, because after the colonization of the British in the Indian country, these are the themes that this novel deals with are the kind of changing factors that the people of India face. So, it is here that the special post-colonial crisis of identity comes into being. So, they try to recover from communal riots, from partisans, and from war that they face. They kind of swing between one place and another, searching for their home. But because of so many political and social factors that affect their life, they could not find a home, a root in any place anymore. So it is a narrative construct on the historical, social, and psychological consequence of displacement. Let's go on. So the novel is full of symbolic reference to house old and new maps and mirrors, borders and boundaries. All these symbols, in one way or the other, deal with the theme of man's search for identity, that is, his search for roots. So, this is not just a story of one grandmother, but one that depicts the eternal suffering of every man torn between the past and the present. So, the novel raised serious questions about roots, identities, war, borders, and so on. The character Tama's convictions about nationality, religion, and belonging get disturbed when she returns to her birthplace in Dhaka, Bangladesh, after a gap of many years. And for the first time after partition, her disillusionment increased when she has to mention her birthplace on the passport form during her visit to Dhaka. In contrast to Tama's, Ghosh presents the quick Robi, his position as spokesman for a post-colonial Indian identity is strengthened by his witnessing and later relating to the death of Tridip.